Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. One last time, if you're new to the channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by Sleeping Warrior, Neil, Father of a Stolen Child, 10th Mad, Adam Meakin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome one and all.
Morning.
And Ali.
Ahoy, hoy.
Hey.
Afternoon.
Good to have you.
Hi, boss.
Hi.
We'll start in a slightly different order today. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Yes.
Oh.
Hey up, Arwin. Do you want to present my screen, Nathan? I've got something really interesting to show. This
Certainly.
has been cited to me by a ball earther. Do you see my my web browser, right?
I will in a
This
moment.
Donut.
Yes.
This is a flat Earth, right? What he's had to do in this video. This is from Science Click English, and it's dated the 3rd of September 2020. A new way to visualize general relativity. We've all seen the heavy balls placed on the sheet, and it causes the thing to dip in the middle, and then they can create what look like temporary orbits as they throw things around. This guy's flattened the Earth in the middle to make this work, right? Which is brilliant. I love the fact that he's had to describe it and visualize this as a flat plane in the middle of a space-time continuum. But what he's doing to try and explain how space-time works, he's got the grid references. These are all the straight lines of the geodesic paths. And what he's saying is that it creates like a gravity well so that something that's traveling in a straight line will appear to fall in towards the Earth and then go back out the other side. And that's basically the explanation that he gives for why Newton's apple falls to the ground. This is what he's trying to explain. He's trying to explain how Newton's apple falls to the ground. And this is the million-dollar question, because obviously Newtonian mechanics, mechanical gravitation, or classical mechanics, or whatever you want to call Newton's, said that there was a force of attraction, or there appeared to be a force of attraction to the Earth of the apple, and that's what pulls it down. Einstein said, no, it wasn't that was pulling it down. Einstein said that the Earth was accelerating upwards. It wasn't the apple falling down, it was the Earth accelerating upwards. But this video talks about it with respect to the space-time continuum, which we think is just poetry and imagination when they describe how the apple falls. But what he's saying is that as the Earth is traveling along its geodesic path orbiting the sun, he's saying that the apple is going with the Earth as it's falling from the tree. So as they're both heading in the same direction, there is a bending of space-time which allows the apple to fall into the path of the Earth. It's not actually accelerating. Well, it is actually accelerating, but in space-time continuum, the geodesic path remains straight, and it's not actually accelerating. It gives the appearance of acceleration, but it's not actual acceleration. But what's really interesting about this is the way he's got this visualization, and it's probably the best way I've seen it done, to be fair, but it just works the wrong way. Let me just go back to the thing here. Because what he's trying, this is it. It's this little bit. I'm conscious of not playing too much. Well, so what he's got here, he's trying to show these straight geodesic paths that are influenced by the Earth to carry on along their straight path. And this is what he explains the Newton's apple falling from the tree with. But there's a couple of major fundamental problems with this illustration. And I have pre-armed like 10th and Adam to ask me a couple of questions, because let's make this full screen so that you can see it a little bit better. 10th, give me the key question that I asked you to ask me. Go on.
Yeah, how does the Eddington experiment work with this explanation?
Do you know what, Tenth? I'm so glad you asked about how the Eddington experiment worked on this. Now, the Eddington experiment was performed in 1919, and it was claimed by astronomers at the time that the sun was occulting a particular star. And if Einstein's theory of general relativity was correct, the bending of space-time would allow the star behind the sun to appear because of the distortion of space-time. Well, this doesn't work with this because it would have to be the opposite way around, because the Earth's supposed to push. In the Eddington experiment, if there was something that was occulting the star, the light path going to it would have to bend around it and come back out the other side, like an orange in a sock. But this is depicting it the other way. This is like water going down a drain hole. So the Eddington experiment couldn't possibly work if this visualization was correct, because an object that is obstructed by the Earth in this observation is still obstructed by the Earth. And if an object is only just going to have a near miss, say, along this geodesic path, that means it's visual before the event, but then the Earth's space-time continuum then brings it towards the Earth and then pulls it away from the Earth. It doesn't bring anything back. So the Eddington experiment doesn't work with this visualization, even though it seems to make intuitive sense, because it seems to make sense, right? But it doesn't work for the Eddington experiment. Adam.
Well, yeah. I mean, doesn't Einstein claim the Earth was accelerating up, though?
He does. Einstein's equivalence principle is that you couldn't tell the difference between being in a gravitational field and accelerating upwards at 9.8 meters per second squared. His argument is that the apple falls to the Earth because the Earth is accelerating up, not because there's a geodesic path that's appearing to change time and bend space-time. He says the Earth moves up. Now, the problem with that argument is that's not what he's depicting here. So Einstein's argument doesn't work, and this poetry and illustration thing doesn't work. And there's a third point, and I've got it in here. I can't remember what it was now. Oh yeah. So bearing in mind that we're supposed to live on a sphere, if Earth is traveling along its geodesic path and it's going around the sun in its orbit along its geodesic straight path, that would mean that you would have an apple falling from a tree, and for 12 hours of the day, it would fall with a different rate or a different something. It would behave differently for 12 hours to the other 12 hours where there would be a phase shift because we're going along a geodesic path. So for every 12 hours it would fall with particular characteristics, then it would phase change, and then it would be going against the geodesic path, and the apple would fall slightly different, and it would be measurable every single day. So again, this doesn't match reality. Nonetheless, it's a lovely visualization, and it's very much poetic and imagination. But as Max Planck famously said, experiment is the only means of knowledge at our disposal. Everything else is just poetry and imagination. And this is the most beautiful poetry and imagination I have seen to explain Newton's apple falling from the tree, explained with Einstein. So brilliant video, complete and utter horseshit.
You say explained.
I'm an object.
The question on the table that you gave a response in this regard to was any scientific evidence of gravity. Now, don't get me wrong, you mentioned an experiment, but this isn't that. You know, you're saying about it being visualizations and saying, you know, how we see this representation of a bowling ball stretched on fabric. Well,
No, Nathan. No, you're mistaken, Nathan. This is from Science Click English. He's got 118,000 subscribers, and the consensus opinion is that this is how it now works. So
that's
you're
not how
wrong, Nathan,
science
because
works.
everybody seems to agree with him.
I don't care about consensus. We're asking for scientific evidence, right? Now, you said at the end about the only thing we've got in terms of actually providing us with some validation for this crap is an experiment. Now, if it's science, then it's got an experiment. Well, what's the natural phenomena being observed? I might as well ask it. I won't leave it rhetorical. What is the phenomena being observed, Anthony?
Well, can I just say, in this thing here, I says to him about the Eddington experiment. I says, otherwise, the Eddington experiment, it wasn't an experiment. So I'm telling him that it's not an experiment. So you're right to point it out, and I didn't miss it out in my response to him. I just wanted to make 2 or 3 points against this visualization. But you're right, there is no experiment for bendy space-time because you can't apply experiment to it. It's purely based in maths, a bit like gravity.
So therefore, it doesn't have any experimental data. It doesn't have any viable hypotheses for the claims. They're just so stories. You said quite a few times because Einstein says. Well, I don't care what Einstein says with his maths. It's just a way of saying things. It's just another language. But is it describing reality? No. It's a concept he's describing. Well, so what? This concept has nothing to do with physical reality.
I know, but Nathan,
Oh,
it's
there's
such a
enough.
pretty visualization.
Yeah, but
Very
it's in
pretty.
reality the apple meets the road.
Look, Anthony wants to give this guy props for creating a very beautiful visualization around a just so story that has absolutely no scientific evidence. John, what did you want to add? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say there's a more glaring problem with it because they're depicting a flat Earth in four-dimensional space-time, but we observe a flat Earth in the third dimension. So
It's lovely. I
that
mean,
can't be right.
I don't know if I'm still playing here, but this is what the guy says. He's to make this work in his visualization. He's had to make the Earth flat, and I'm like, it's brilliant.
No way. Yeah, well, that's typical,
Yeah,
though,
yeah,
isn't it? That's fairly atypical because what you've got is every single argument that actually has any research done into it starts with the presupposition of a sphere, but then actually goes forward to measure flat planes.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's a good video. You should go and watch it and just look at the poetry that it actually is. Because
What's the guy's name?
You know, if you're an Einstein buff or a gravity buff, you're going to look at this and think, yeah, that's how the Newton's apple works. But when you think about it and cross-relate it to the other claims that are made in general relativity, none of it works. Eddington's doesn't work. You can't explain it when you go in different times of the day because it would be a phase shift. It's just complete nonsense.
Perfect. Well, we're on the subject, though. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
No.
Any signs of physical Earth curvature, formerly known as the geometric horizon?
Not physical. Apparent. Optical.
No,
Weather related.
No, you need it to be geometric if you're a globe head, because you've got geometry being done.
Doesn't the horizon doesn't even look within 5% of its claimed geometric position today.
Yeah, we can't be within 5% of a claimed geometric position because it's only 5% within a claim of something, as opposed to actually being within 5% of something you cannot measure and we have debunked. You can't make the assertion you're in 5% of something you can't see. How'd you know? Have you measured it? You can't see it. So how can you claim you're within 5% of it? You can't.
Would that make them would that make them 105% wrong?
Makes them 100% wrong.
And then the 5% on top?
There is no 5% on top. It's just a claim that can't be validated. If you're going to say you're within 5% of something, right? Horses are within 5% of unicorns. Are they? How'd you know? Well, because they're within 5% of the anatomy of a unicorn. Well, have you compared it to a unicorn? Oh, I can't do that. Unicorns aren't real. But we're within 5% of them.
Well, we can model it with DNA sequencing, Nathan, so it's close enough with the model.
Oh, that makes unicorns real.
Yeah. And then based on the model, we can make predictive calculations to how we could make the unicorn have 2 horns instead of 1 horn. I mean, what's the problem?
The thing that you're comparing it to and saying it's within 5% of doesn't exist.
Yeah, but if I can model it and calculate and make predictions based on it, Nathan, where's your model?
Who cares? The thing that's being claimed in terms of the nature of our reality is that we're on a sphere, it falls away at 8 inches per mile squared, we have drop as a consequence. None of those things are demonstratable, none of those things are showable. So, who cares?
You haven't got a model, Nathan. I don't have to take you seriously, I'm afraid. You debunked.
All right. Well, what am I making a claim that requires a model for? I can make a claim with a model. I've got a model in Google Earth that is used by professionals on a daily basis to build stuff, and it's flat.
You do realise that like the horizon's curved on that model, Nathan. You've just got to zoom out a little bit.
What the depiction might be, but the measurements aren't, and that's what people actually use.
Yeah, but you can't prove that.
I can. They're there as proof with no drop and used by professionals. So I can prove it. They're used daily.
See, Nathan, you're only saying that because you confuse the word level and horizontal with curved. Those level and horizontal lines are actually curved.
All right, tell it to the people building stuff who absolutely utilise it as is and don't make any conversions and worry about curve that's not depicted. If they had to worry about curve, it would be depicted.
You're just a moron, Nathan.
Excellent rebuttal. Meanwhile, you don't have a geometric sphere edge for a horizon, fundamentalist religious globe-believing zealots. We've debunked it with the black swan. Any evidence of the R value?
We can calculate it.
In physical reality,
5%.
can't get within 5% of something you can't see and doesn't exist.
Oh, but it is always there, Nathan. You just can't see it because the atmosphere is there. If you're trying to say that we'd have to remove the atmosphere to be able to see the geometric radius.
And where's there?
Just go up really high on a clear day.
What, to get around all the refraction that's at 7/6R as opposed to the refraction we could argue that is being increased by raising your altitude. Yeah.
And I'll ignore the fact that if we go up the high mountain like Alberuni did, I'll ignore the fact that we're now looking down into a density gradient from elevation, and that's going to cause distortion. I'll ignore that. I'll ignore the clouds that are going to blur the horizon, so you can't really see where the line is that demarks space from the geometric edge. I'll ignore the fact that all the things that they use against us at ground level just don't apply when it's at the top of the mountain.
Well, no, it doesn't apply for them either, because when they're depicting their top of the mountain, you're seeing the side of your own head and a tangent point horizon. So, you know, you're never going to get those views. Even if they claim terrestrial refraction at 7/6 of a radius, we've debunked. That's not a view you can attain in orthographic Muppet vision. So you're never going to see anything when they're claiming 7/6R. That's not how you see. So refraction in the atmosphere, as they'll assert in their maths because they've got sphere-shaped air, is irrelevant when you're up a mountain because we don't have sphere-shaped air with light bending around it in their maths, and that's not how we see the world. So it's irrelevant. Meanwhile, the geometric horizon is there. Where's there, Anthony?
Well, if we calculate it, then we can pinpoint how far away it should be. And because calculations are essentially measurements, Nathan, because I'm stupid and don't realize the difference, it means that we have the distance to the horizon. It's just that the atmosphere blocks it, and you have to believe.
Yeah, atmosphere, begging the question fallacy I've just covered. So there is in the maths. That's where there is. The geometric horizon, quote, the rumpus, only exists in the maths. So there isn't out there if we had no atmosphere, sphere-shaped air, begging the question fallacy, because that only exists in the maths also. So no, it won't be there, because in reality, there doesn't exist.
Well, if you ain't got a measurement, how are you doing a calculation?
You don't. It's the end of the claim of globe Earth. It ended January the 1st, 2020, with the black swan.
I thought we knew that the Earth was a ball for thousands of years.
And therefore you can measure it and assert that it's blocking things in the distance with its physical geometry until you debunk that claim with the black swan. Then you can't make that claim anymore. Or you can lie, as Rumpus does on the video I'm releasing tonight, as a live audience will get to see, if you're not watching this on the pre-show or whatever, uncut and after show. So tonight at 8:45, there's going to be a presentation of Rumpus lying overtly and what you should do to deal with that, i.e. turn your back on Rumpus. He's a liar, and he's a proven liar. Now, can he get around his lie? No, but he's still going to make 3 or 4 attempts to lie in defence of his lie, which is what liars do. Now, in the case of the Isle of Man discussion, they all drew a tangent. Now, what is a tangent? Well, number one, it's required to do their geometric assertions, but it's a straight line. So when Rumpus comes here in defence of the Black Swan 18 months after the fact and says, with his lie, I refracted, quote, everything at the Isle of Man, that is a lie. And that's what you've got to do when you've drawn tangents in geometric mathematics to make a claim of an Earth curve edge that gets in the way. You've got to lie when it's no longer an Earth curve edge, it's refracted, because it's no longer geometric and no longer allows you to make the assertions you have made here on this show with the Isle of Man. Well, that means you've got to lie. Well, that's where the globe ends, with people having to lie for it. I also said I want the heads of all the other people who came here and lied. I want to know if it's stupidity or if you're directly and knowingly lying also. All of the people who came here and drew a tangent with the maths and said that the Isle of Man demonstrated Earth curve by way of its physical obstruction, every single one of those people have been debunked. Bad news. It's bad times to be a glober. And the only out is to lie. That's going to be painful, far more painful than dealing with cognitive dissonance. Overt lying is far more painful. Now, if you're here like Rumpus and you know you're lying when you claim it's refracted with respect to the horizon, and then later say the horizon's also refracted, well, the lighthouse is refracted because you haven't refracted it. It couldn't be refracted. It's a tangent, ergo straight. Then that's the position you're left in with a globe belief. Having to lie. Speaking of lies, any evidence of gas pressure without a container?
Yeah, to Tommy, he asked Conspiracy Cats 17 times that question, and eventually he got to the 18th question, and the Conspiracy Cats just said, we don't need a container, you just need the gas.
And how would he calculate that within gas law or the second law of thermodynamics? Don't they contain a V? That would be a volume.
Yeah, they calculate it with a volume, and when asked for a demonstration of this said thing, they just completely... They don't have any demonstrations. They result back to calculations, and if calculations are okay, then that's what they'll go with, because that's the only explanation they've got. No demonstrations, though, right?
It's a great
Correct me
comment.
if I'm wrong.
I can't give credit
Anthony,
to the... Go on, 10th.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, Anthony, but didn't Conspiracy Cats in the previous show say that he was going to show gas pressure without a container?
I don't remember, if I'm honest. Probably. I don't know.
And he never came forward with it. And so now you're saying Tommy held him to task, and his answer was what?
17 times he asked him. 17 times.
And his answer was what?
You don't need a container. You just need the gas.
So you don't need a container to have gas pressure, is what he's saying then.
Correct. You just need the gas.
When he said, without the container there can be no pressure, or without the balloon there is no pressure, he was wrong, and he's now contradicting himself. Yeah, lying. While he's overtly stated that a container is required, now he's saying one isn't, with no justification, in violation of several natural laws. That's what you have to do. Lie. When you're cornered 17 or 18 times by a flat earther just simply asking you to confirm that which you have already said, and then you don't confirm it, you go completely against your own words. In other words, lie. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with liars. Now, an interesting point was made by one of the commenters who I can't remember to credit, but somebody in the comments was saying, gravity's the container. And the commenter I can't credit was like, so you're conceding container required then? I thought that was genius. Another commenter, again I can't credit, I'm sorry for if you're that commenter, just leave a comment below, I'm really sorry. But someone else said to me, you do realise they're not talking about you anymore over on Cats and Co's channels? I'm like, let me get it straight. For 18 months we have banged the devastating drum of the Black Swan because it's devastating, so it's never going to die or go away. It's worthy of continual repetition. Meanwhile, after a couple of weeks, the White Swan that was supposed to destroy Flat Earth has stopped being talked about. You're like, really? Well, he's a permanent part of my show, my friends. Cats and Co, thank you very much for throwing perspective back into the mix while we chop your head off with tangents you haven't got anymore for your geometry. Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. They've stopped talking about it, have they? Oh, well, it's never going to go away from here. Perspective's real. Thanks very much for bringing it up.
Did you say that they'd stop talking about you or stop talking about Black Swan?
They specifically said talking about me in the comment.
On which channel's this?
I don't know why I didn't even know they were. Well, that's why I found it quite amusing. I'm like, I didn't even know they were talking about me. My understanding was their argument was about a straw man of flat earth perspective that we don't claim, that's oversimplified, now relabeled Mong trig, that they need to burn to acquire angular sizes to get drop values from a calculator that they don't want to use because they haven't got a geometric horizon anymore. That's the most concise summary I can give of what's happened in this regard. But it still throws perspective back on the table. And as Chocolate said yesterday, yeah, thanks very much, Cats. What, that fleur perspective you used to tell us we made up? Now you're using it in your calculations, but it's not actually in the globe calculations, the official geometry that hasn't got a tangent anymore. Yeah, we know. Nice that we can point that out, though.
It's not like they're not actually mentioning you. So maybe they're not talking about you, but they have songs written with your name in it. So maybe they're just singing about you.
Yeah, I don't care. My focus is on the argument, and the argument is devastating. That's why it's not going anywhere. Black Swan's been around for a long time now. 18 months in flat Earth terms is 5 years. Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No, John wanted to chime in, though.
Go ahead, John.
Well, I was going to say every time that they address you is another chance for one of their viewers to go and listen to your rebuttals. And it's a lot easier for them to just ignore the problem and deal with people making silly arguments and debunk those.
Right. I'd like to think we're on the cutting edge of flat Earth arguments and globe debunkings here on Flat Earth Debate. And if you're a new globe believer who's come here to laugh, presumably leave a snidey comment, great. Subscribe today. Have we covered everything in housekeeping? Distance to the sun. Any evidence thereof?
Come on, wait.
Wouldn't you need R?
It's in the firmament.
Get out.
Wouldn't you need R?
They would need R for their distance at 93 million miles.
That's what I'm saying.
So would Einstein. I think that's it. Do we cover everything? I think we've covered everything. Yeah, that concludes the housekeeping with that sound of a tumbleweed coming from Anthony's mic.
Yeah. Over, really, isn't it? It's like, I don't know how any of them can maintain the position other than just delusional denial. That is literally what they've got.
Yeah, as I said during the pre-show, you need to turn your back on these people. The things that are brainwashing you and poisoning you. Yes, it's wonderful that there's activists out there. I'm not knocking you. But by the same token, you'd be better off just turning your back on them.
Well, Anthony says they're delusional. Those signs appeared early when they said the straight and level is curved.
We are getting to the point where they're going to argue that we live on a flat ball. You realise that's coming, right?
They already do. Tangent planes.
Wait, Alwyn says that.
I'm going to read something from, I saw, Gary, I think it's Wabanga. I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but he was saying to Fight the Flat Earth, he said, I don't care if 7 billion people on the face of the flat Earth think that level is curved. It does not make it so. And he's right. Doesn't matter what people think. Level does not mean curved. Fight the Flat Earth responds and says, old Gary is a dumbass even on Facebook. Typical flat earther. I'm right and the entire world is wrong. This shows the pure arrogance and willful ignorance of flat earthers. Well, he sees that flat does not mean curved. Level does not mean curved. Curving does not mean horizontal. He can contrast between antonyms and synonyms. But if you're a ball earther, you've got to argue that level and curved are synonyms rather than the antonyms that they actually are. So it's not going to be long before we can push these lead protagonists into all claiming that we live on a flat ball. And then I think that's when it gets to the absurd. We've reduced the argument down to the absurd.
It's already there.
Are they doing it?
Yeah, it's already down to absurdity. They're trying to bend tangents right now.
Yeah, bending straight lines.
Yeah, it's over. They're just,
I think what's happened is if you think of Ranty because he's topical at the minute, he looks out to the horizon. He sees stuff that he knows he shouldn't see, and for some reason he sees flat but thinks curve. It's like, how do you do that? That's like seeing hot and thinking cold, or seeing fast and thinking slow. How has he managed to get cross-wired into that? Well, we all know with Ranty, but that's what the average baller does. They see blue and think red.
Conditional.
Because you said it there, because it's the way of thinking. They see things they shouldn't see. Why shouldn't they see them?
Because
The only reason they think they shouldn't see them is because they think they're on a ball. They presuppose that. That's why they shouldn't be seeing this thing they're seeing.
I mean, I heard Ranty saying last I think he was on Jose's. I got a clip of him saying you can have flat water on a sphere. Well, he's essentially arguing disco ball Earth. But none of the ball earthers have called him out on that, because you can't have a disco ball earth if it's a sphere, because water's got to curve at a set rate. You can't have flat water on a sphere. All bodies of water have got to convert. They've got to curve over a set distance, and it starts to become measurable after about a quarter of a mile. You can't have flat water on a ball, Ranty. Why are the ball earthers not calling this out?
That's another commenter that said something to the effect of, Ranty didn't exactly disprove the globe when he was a flat earther, but you can be damn sure he will now he's a globe head.
I'd like to see that demonstrated. Flat water on the ball.
Just going to do a quick shout out to Godzilla37. Professional globers are professional liars. Changed my mind. Shout out to you, Godzilla37. Really appreciate the support.
Hey, everybody.
He's right.
Nathan.
Isn't he claiming this local flatness?
Yeah, he said he's got papers that support it as well. Scientific papers that support it. And I'm like, really? Can we see these papers, please?
Excellent, let's have them. Because your globe claims 8 inches per mile squared drop from every vantage point. So yeah, great. Present them. Somehow thinking that you're helping the globe side? Keep it up, Ranty.
But why are none of the ballers calling him out on this disco ball earth? Because we don't live on a disco ball earth. It's supposed to be curved water, Ranty, not flat spots on a ball.
Hey, don't get into correcting Ranty on his claim of a globe earth. Look, right, he needs re-indoctrinating into the globe earth cult. It's not your job to do it. What he should be claiming, leave that up to Rumpus to tell him. Here's the lie you need to tell Ranty. Let's get it clear.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm criticising the ball earthers for not calling him out on his disco ball earth, because that's not their model.
Yeah, at least get the lies right.
Well, everyone, how are things?
Very well, Brian. Good to have you.
Hey, Nathan. You know what it is? If he has papers, he has papers from ballers who are obviously higher up the food chain than a lot of the people we deal with. And they are now of the opinion that they can't disprove 15 or 20 miles of flat, because that's what everyone will experiences in their local area, 15 to 20 miles of flat. So now they're coming up with papers, I would say, that are stating that this is possible, and they're messing around with supposed, I have to say it, forces of gravity. They have no choice, because they are seeing the likes of us showing flat everywhere. And they're going out and they're finding flat for themselves, but they won't let go of the belief that it's a ball. So instead, they're coming up with a heap of nonsense and putting their stamp on some paper that states that it can be 15 or 20 miles of flat, but still be a ball. It's just crazy nonsense. It's basically just denial from if these people are real and they did write these papers, they're just denying that it's flat.
It's actually pathetic.
Oh yes, it is.
I think it's a great thing. Let them. What's that you say? You want to deny your claim in the first instance? I don't mind them presenting it and saying locally flat, and I have to turn around and say, okay, not 8 inches per mile squared then. Wonderful, welcome to flat Earth. No, but it's still a ball. You've just told me how flat it is, and that's not 8 inches per mile squared as claimed. Not spherical either. Wow, that's your claim.
What's interesting. If you think about this politically or from a public perception perspective, when Ranty's flipped, apparently, right, if you were a flat earther and you genuinely flipped back to the ball, you would just disappear, wouldn't you? You would kind of like fake your own death kind of thing, because you would never admit going back to the ball. You'd just vanish. But Ranty's doing the walk of shame and he's being paraded around like the sacrificial lamb. And I'm watching him thinking, poor Ranty, this is terrible. So long as he keeps doing that walk of shame, they'll accept him as a ball earther, because the public perception is a flat earther has gone back to the ball. But to do that, you've got to do the walk of shame in front of everyone. It's just embarrassing, Ranty.
Can you back off your mic a couple of inches? You're setting my subwoofer off with your plosives.
I heard Anthony say a second ago, just before I joined there, Anthony, you were talking about was it Gary Wybanga were talking to Fight the Flat Earth.
Yeah.
And you know, Fight the Flat Earth is if I have to think about it, he's number one for saying that that level is curved. Now, all elevations are taken off of mean sea level. We've had the people like Rumpus and George Netchuk and all these that are all captured by QE, who all state who all did state that all elevations are taken from the center of a sphere, right? But they were corrected on this by QE and other people. But QE came down hard on them because it's an oblate spheroid they believe in, not a sphere. So when people like Fight the Flat Earth say that level is curved because level is level with the center of his globe, then he's incorrect, because that's not level, because that's an oblate spheroid. So there's no set like the distance will change to the center of his sphere will change on a constant rate. You go 10 foot left or right, and technically you've changed the distance. So the level is not curved. Level is flat. Mean sea level, flat, just like Google Earth shows.
I was just going to ask, is level curved when it's measured locally flat?
I've got proof. I've got proof of locally flat at Master B, Nathan, if you want to show it.
Yeah, but just to answer Chocolate, no, Chocolate, and that's the point, isn't it, right? So, wonderful. If everyone's getting annoyed with this, which it sounds like you are, oh, why are you denying your claim in the first instance? No, just put positive spin on it. They're denying their claim in the first instance. Hello?
Yeah, I'm cool with that. Keep going, guys. Just like refraction. Go, refraction. Locally flat. Yeah, go ahead.
Got the Dell style football, right?
That's basketball.
Dell put water on a football, similar looking football, although it's a basketball.
Yeah, watch out for them when the ball earthers bring up a basketball to give a demonstration or an explanation or whatever, some kind of supporting argument. Because when they do that, no one's pointing out to them that the basketball, nobody disputes exists. The basketball's in your hand, and it's obvious that it exists, and you can reference it in any way you want to because it's not contentious. But the geometric sphere edges, and that's the bit we're talking about. So you can't use a basketball to make the points that you're about to make when the basketball is not contentious. The geometric edge is.
Are you denying them a bounce back?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're claiming the first instance is Earth curve, demonstratable at the horizon. If you go and check out any advice from globe-believing fundies on how to debate us, they tell you quite clearly that the argument for a globe Earth starts at the horizon.
Anthony, can you repeat what you said with the basketball? What did you say?
So they'll often bring out a basketball and they'll say, like, for example, how do we calculate the radius to the basketball? And you'll either measure something along the circumference, and then you'll get from that, you'll get the diameter, and then you get the radius from it, or whatever. You can formulate it, however, in a few ways. But because the basketball's in your hand and it's not contentious that the basketball actually exists, they're actually citing a false equivalence, because they're citing something that is demonstrably in your hand, and you can calculate it if you know that the sphere exists, the ball in your hand, if you know that exists, then you can calculate these things. But the Earth's geometric edge is contentious, and you don't know that it exists. So how can you distinguish between traversing along a flat plane and having the perception that you're going around a sphere with actually going around a sphere? You can't distinguish the two. So it's a false equivalence.
It's also a way of forcing you to beg the question. So Neil deGrasse Tyson does it the same with his beach ball that's the shape of a globe. And he says, you can't see the geometric horizon when you're 2 millimeters off this beach ball, or words to that effect. I'm paraphrasing slightly. But what he's doing is he's allowing you to understand that he's going to be describing Earth that way whilst holding something sphere-shaped. So on this sphere-shaped ball, we will have a geometric horizon and you can't see it from 2 millimeters above it. That stuff is flat. Well, you're not told overtly that there's a magic trick about to take place, which is to say that because he's described it that way, you then automatically assume that the geometric sphere edge horizon on a beach ball, obscuring your view or bending in his example, or not bending in his example, is going to be comparable to your horizon where you stand, automatically making you A, reify the horizon into something that should or shouldn't bend and is physical, because he's told you that's what a physical edge on a ball is while he holds it. Also, that the Earth's a sphere, because there's a sphere in his hand and you're going to be considering the Earth in that way. So it forces you to beg the question of a sphere Earth, lets flat earthers reify the edge into something physical that should or shouldn't bend, whilst holding up a claim victory because he says that stuff is flat, whilst explaining that the physical edge of a sphere won't be bending from 2 millimeters above it. Therefore, your horizon, which is now obviously assumed to be the same as the beach ball horizon, right? Nod, nod. That's the trick.
Try telling flat earthers that. They get crazy when he says that. They're all happy. Meanwhile, he's saying, everybody on the ball.
I just made a little locally flat one.
I put it up.
Was it on? That's the principle, though, isn't it? What they're claiming, that's...
Yeah, it's ludicrous. Ball Earth in first instance, regardless of disco ball locally flat. That's not going to give you 8 inches per mile squared. That's the claim.
Yeah, but why aren't the ball earthers calling this nonsense out? If Rancy's claiming local flat planes, that means disco ball. So where's the accumulation of the...
That's why I'm confused. Right? I thought we never got measurements of flat. All of a sudden now it's locally flat? That's a switch.
Remember, curvature is... Flat is the standard that curvature is measured against. So it's like they need the datum of flat, level, horizontal, whatever word you want to use to describe that flatness. They need a measured drop, and they don't have it.
I'd like to make a positive claim.
Good.
I'm going to go ahead and say that the horizon exists within the measuring device itself. And you can prove that by using different viewing devices to observe the horizon.
That's correct. So in Life is Short's presentation, he said almost the exact same words. So he said he's got a juxtaposition between the assertion that flat earthers make that the horizon rises to eye level. And he says, no, the horizon is your eye level. That's what it is. It's created by the lens of your eye, or in your case, you're comparing it to the instrumentation that forms the horizon for the device. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the, and it's, if it's that, then it's not the edge of a geometric sphere, refracted or otherwise.
Right. It's directly affected by the calculable diffraction limit of the aperture. So you can calculate it. That's giving you a vanishing point, a diffraction limit.
Do you know,
without the optic, there can be no horizon.
Exactly.
Just thinking about
But that's where the...
Go on, John.
When a baller says that there is no horizon on a flat plane, that's objectively, that's true, because the horizon exists within the camera, or the whatever you're using to measure.
Interesting way of putting it. It's an optical phenomena as opposed to a physical sphere edge. Now, it's demonstrable that it can move by merely changing the optics of what you view it through, be it your eye or a super zoom telescope. That changes where it is. So it's obviously optical and obviously not a physical geometric limitation to your view. Earth curve's bunk.
That's why.
Yeah.
Earth curve is bunk.
Just thinking about the disco ball argument that Rancy's presenting, Adam's put on a disco ball with the Earth overlaid on top of it. If it was possible that there was locally flat water the way it's claimed, it would mean that there would be times of the day when the moon would get certain reflected angles of flat water, and we would see disco ball lights passing across the face of the moon because it would be lighting up the reflected flat spots that are being angled towards the moon at that point. We should see disco ball evidence on the moon. Literally, that's what we should see.
Maybe.
Yeah, and all the edges where the water edges between the next block.
Yeah, there'd be an angle. It's nonsense.
Yeah, there would be an angle, a measurable angle. And at what scale does it start becoming not local anymore? Where does the local become not local and we start getting curved water?
Look, there's a danger here, Anthony, and you're going to fall into this trap real quick if you're not careful. Don't fight their positive position. Don't fight for Ranty to make the correct positive assertion, right? Just point out how it's wrong. So locally flat. So not 8 inches per mile squared from your observer point then. Welcome to flat Earth. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Not, here's your positive claim, Ranty. You should be saying blah, blah, blah. No, because that almost turns into you claiming it. You'll have some idiot like Simon Dan debunking you telling Ranty how he should be claiming globe Earth.
That is true. You'll get Simon Dan debunking it with no science, just nonsense.
Your claim of Earth curve is ruined, says Simon Dan. Not our claim, Dick Brain.
Yeah, the trap there of actually getting involved, isn't there? As soon as you start getting involved in that absolute nonsense, you start thinking about it. There's nothing to think about. It's measured locally flat because everywhere is local and everywhere is flat.
Exactly.
You stupid flat earthers. Earth is not flat. It's just flat locally.
Don't mistake a concession.
That's how y'all sound.
Yeah, don't mistake a concession for an argument that needs repositioning for their positive claim. You know, don't prop the boxer that's fell to the ground down and say, look, you're supposed to be throwing punches like this. Just when they collapse to the ground saying locally flat, say, welcome to flat Earth. Not 8 inches per mile squared drop from every vantage point. They're not measurable curvature. So flat. Okay. Yeah, we agree.
Yeah, I'm starting to like their concessions. Like refraction every time you say, oh, when we ask you for the geometry of your globe and you tell us it's optical. Oh, yeah. I'm cool with that. Keep going, guys.
Yeah, when they tell us we do not see a geometric horizon. Well, thank you very much for that. Welcome to flat Earth.
A lot of the problem is that they can compartmentalize everything that that debunks their position. They just kind of set it in the back of their mind and ignore it. And it takes a while for them to actually address it.
Oh, beautiful circle segue. So yeah, like having to address the fact that you've drawn a tangent to what you claim is proved as Earth curve at the Isle of Man, you can then compartmentalise that away and then claim you've refracted everything. Or to put it another way, lie. Yeah, compartmentalisation causes problems when you have to defend those positions that you've put in the back of your mind with your geometric tangent points you all drew. Because now you're going to have to lie about that.
No, Nathan, you just don't understand. It's quantum flat. That means as soon as you perceive it, you observe it as a consciousness, it actually becomes flat. But outside of your sight, it's a globe. Right?
No.
Well, if you're getting within 5% like of the geometric horizon by sending a tangent line to a refracted horizon, which means you're sending it to nothing. Do you know what I mean? By measuring absolutely nothing, I am within 5% of my belief.
Yeah, I covered this earlier, Brian, with unicorns. Well, a unicorn's within 5% of a horse. Is it? Yeah. How'd you know? Well, because it's within 5% of it. Here's the maths. But unicorns aren't real. Yeah, but horses are within 5% of them.
Yeah, remember that one.
That will always stir up a conversation.
Been a couple of weeks
The
now
observation
since
collapses the globe function. Come on, the observation collapses the globe function.
Yeah, that's a brilliant line.
I know.
He's got
Quantum
news.
flat. Locally,
And
flat.
then-
When you perceive
hold
it
on,
flat, otherwise it's a globe. Collapsing
let-
the
Come on,
globe.
guys. That
Guys,
was good. Stir up.
guys. Let Arwin repeat that. He's been building up to that little punchline and we all rumpused it. It was great. Say it again, Arwin.
Yeah, I know you do. Quantum flat. When you observe it, it becomes flat because it collapses the globe function
Perfect.
because of the observation.
Excellent.
So let's make it a little bit more succinct. So knowledge of the horizon distance collapses the geometric horizon function.
Perfect. Oh, I could kiss you both. You're brilliant. Both of you ace.
You're going to hate this then. It's actually not quantum flat. It's quantum curvature.
Quantum curvature.
Yeah, that's correct. Quantum curvature, because you collapse the curve function.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the quantum
Notice-
curvature experiment.
Notice how my pun when I said this will stir up conversation, and 3 panel members at the spur at the moment came up with that.
Observation of horizon collapses the squaring function.
I have a serious question.
Go on, John.
When they're calculating the horizon, which horizon are they calculating? Their eye, the device they're using at that moment? Which horizon are they calculating?
They're not, because they can't see that which they're making the claim in the positive assertion, first instance, of Earth curvature. So they're measuring something that only exists in the maths. To say they've gotten within 5% of it when they measure something that isn't capable of being measured. So you can't assert I'm within 5% of it. 5% of it? What's it? Well, I'm within 5% of the geometric horizon. And what's that? Here, it is in my maths. Well, how can you say you're within 5% of it in reality if you can't see it? Well, we can't.
Hey, Nathan, I've got a few slides.
Yeah, at least they weren't lying.
You'll have to expand on that. What do you mean?
Well, they're not lying when they tell us we can't see the geometric horizon because they don't have one.
Yeah, they're conceding.
So
that's what
lying.
they're doing. They're conceding.
Nathan, I got a few slides of Master B. Start with the last one. I'll wait till I see it on the screen. Go to the last one.
Okay.
Is that the last one?
Earth and sky. I've got.
Okay, yeah, that's start from there and move forward. Okay, so Earth and sky. So off of their own navigation sites and how they get readings and bearings and angles, says, from where we stand, Earth appears flat and the sky appears like a dome above us. The point where the dome of the sky meets the Earth is called the horizon. So this is what they're saying we see. And this is the way they explain it. Next slide, please.
It appears flat.
Yeah, move on to the next.
Some tangent with horizon.
Yeah, I'm a little, there we go. So when you use a sextant, you have to use the second mirror to reflect and bring that sun down to sea level, which is the horizon there. And then they waggle it left to right until it barely touches the horizon there. And that's where you take your sighting from. So you're using 2 objects to get an angle. One, the horizon, the other, the sun. And you take your reading at this tangency point. Next slide.
Okay.
Just got a little delay on your YouTube here. I may just go to the Master B myself. Which one do you have? The ship?
Yes, with star A, star B.
Yeah, all right. So here you've got the sextant on the left side and the reading, and this is going to tell you your angle. So in this one, you see the angle from the ship as depicted. Star B, the angle 75 degrees. Obviously, the straight line would be 90. And then star A is 30 degrees. And what do you need? You need the horizon, and it needs to be flat in order to achieve that angle to the 90. Next one, please. That's atoms locally flat. Or no, I'm sorry. Why is this not showing? Is it the one with the...
Got a sun on a lollipop stick, and then a sphere Earth with an oval, and the sun with an angle to it, and 3.
Yeah, perfect. Perfect. So on the top one, it's the same thing as I showed before, bringing the sun down, and it shows you where it's wrong and where it's right, where you bring it to the horizon and do that little waggle. So that's how you do it. And so obviously the second picture is the observer using the sextant, using the mirror, bringing that sun down to the horizon, as you see there. And how they depict it is on the globe. But guess what? That circle is called the circle of equal altitude. And that sun is at the radius of that circle, which is at its highest point, the zenith position. And from the observer to that GP, geographical position, where it's directly overhead on that part of the Earth, that has to be flat in order to get the angle. So there's your horizon. You see, as far as your eye lets you see, It doesn't matter what the weather is or miraging. It doesn't matter what kind of refraction phenomenon you want to bring in. It has to be level all the way to the GP of that sun. Next one, please.
Okay.
This is the one showing Eratosthenes, correct? And the real world?
Yes.
Okay, so here, as you can see on the real world, if you're on the flat plane, you can achieve what the sextant does, which is a horizon as one object and the luminary, in this case, the sun, as the other, and the angle in between. And then on the Eratosthenes mistake, they have to say, well, sun rays has to come in parallel, and we're taking the measurement from the center of a presupposed sphere, which nobody does because everyone takes it off a curved surface in their model, but you can't get an angle from a curved surface. Next one, please.
Got your 3 circles.
Yeah, so here's 3 circles where you're going to exact your position as the observer is the red dot, that's you on the sailboat. And that's 3 different luminaries that you cite. And notice the 90-degree symbol on each one to the star. That means that star at that moment is the highest position over the Earth, and that's known as the geographical position. And you at the red are taking the sighting. So now you don't know where you are on the circle. You can be anywhere on one of these circles. So you take a second sighting, and the circles cross at 2 points. You say, I want to be exact. You take a third sighting, and all the 3 circles cross at 1 point, and that's where you are. Now, all those circles have to be flat water, have to be in order to get the angle. Next one, please.
Circle of equal altitude.
Yes. So now we go, hang on one. Circle of equal altitude shows you exactly what one circle depicts, but you can imagine all 3 have to do this. The sun is over the highest point. You're 50 degrees away from it. Somewhere on that circle is 50 degrees from every vantage point. So if this represents 3,000 miles, then whoever's on the other side of the circle shooting the sun at 50 degrees is also 3,000 miles away, which makes you and the other person 6,000 miles of flat plane. This is making sense. Last one. You see the red lines?
Yep.
Okay, so I did this slide, and I only used 2 star positions referencing geographical position. Now, then there's the tangent plane line that I drew. Now, that star from the left, star 1, that's your 90 degrees to it. That's that arrow going down to the right to the GP where it says GP star 1. So look at the tangent plane if you do that. It's not curving. It can't curve. It has to go straight. And so that way, it's impossible to have the GP of the sun on the curve. It has to be somewhere on that red line I'm drawing. And if it's going into outer space, then the sextant will never work. So the sextant destroys the globe, plows through refraction. The Earth is flat.
With that, I'll say if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who liked, commented, shared, subscribed, or joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!